Okay, we're back for part 2 at AuSable Chasm, and we're getting ready to do the adventure walk. I am a little bit nervous. There's like some high wire activity about to happen.
Yeah, it looked
Um,
pretty neat. Hopefully we can get some good camera shots.
we're gonna try. We can only use our action cam on it, so
Yeah.
we're gonna see.
We
We're
haven't
gonna see
used
what
it.
we get.
We haven't used it quite a lot before, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get some good shots.
We got a lot of fog. It fogged up on me in its
On the
case
river.
on the river, so we'll see how it does on this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cross your fingers. We'll get some good shots and come along on the adventure. Where are we going?
We're gonna go walk on some wires.
All right. That's
Once we got all the way down, we met our guide and were given the equipment that we would need for the day. So we all got harnesses that had 2 carabiners on like elastic straps and helmets. We then learned safety techniques for how we were going to be navigating our way across the course. We were to always have 2 points of contact, so you had to hold on with one hand, move a carabiner, then move the next one. So you always were connected to the wire. We then had to go all the way down this section of wire just to get the hang of things. They really wanted to make sure we were safe.
With both carabiners clipped in, you're going to climb up all the way until your foot is 1 rung below your carabiners. Then you're just going to grab your carabiner, bring it up, do the same with the other side, and keep climbing.
After learning the technique for the cargo net, it was time to really start the trail. This is the first task that we had to do, and it was a pretty easy one. It was a little awkward having to move the carabiners from way down by your feet and then stretch them up high, but it was also good practice getting used to moving them before we were on a narrow wire bridge. You can kind of see as John gets to the top here, there are some like metal rebar handles and footholds along the way to help you get from one transition to the next. So to get off the cargo net, you can hold on to something a little bit more stable to pull yourself all the way up. I know it is a little awkward with the action cams that we have. Things are moving around pretty fast. But then we started our way down the wire and to the first bridge, which they say is the hardest bridge. What's tricky about this bridge is you're on one single wire. You have 1 wire for each hand, but there are also several transition points that you have to walk across and unclip and reclip yourself in. So it's the first real challenge that you're doing on this adventure walk other than having gone up the cargo net. But now you're over open water, you're on 1 wire, and you're trying to step over and through these black like guide wires. So if you have big feet, that can be a little bit nerve-wracking. You can see here I'm holding on with one hand and using the other to move my carabiners. Then I can get my other foot through the wires and continue on to the next interchange. Probably the hardest part of this bridge was steadying yourself enough to reach over and unclip your carabiners to get around those knots on the black guidelines and then continue on through. But before I knew it, I was almost to the end, and you can see you transition right from this single wire bridge up to really skinny platforms on the cliff face. It was pretty intense. It's going to look just like I'm staring at a wall, but this was the transition from the bridge onto those little platforms. You can see how the bridge is connected to the stone face, and then there are some rebar handles to pull yourself up and off the bridge and over onto the little platforms to get along the side of the cliff. Luckily from here, after I got myself clipped in, I was able to turn around and watch John come across. We all entered the bridge at staggered times because you could only have so many people on at once. And I think I would have been nervous with any more people on because it really does shake a lot while you're up there. It doesn't look like it's too bad when you're just watching, but when you're on it, it is swaying and bouncing and it feels like you're going to just pop right off. It was pretty scary, which you'll hear John say in just a second here.
I know. It's pretty scary, huh? You guys are a lot faster.
It's all worth it, though.
Oh, it is. Too bad I'm not looking around. Yep, I'm hooking on the green wire. Oh, crazy stuff. That was scary. All right.
The next task was to navigate across the sheer gorge wall to get to the next bridge. They had little wooden stairs to stand on, and then there were some spots of rock that you could get your feet on, and there were some rebar handles as well. I was gripping that wire tight. You can see there are lots of transition points around, and sometimes I did struggle to get the carabiners clipped in right. But you just keep moving along, and you really are just right on the side of the gorge wall. It was so crazy. And at the time, you really aren't thinking about how there's nothing under you. You're just focused on the task at hand. So I wasn't even really nervous during these parts, even though you can see I'm gripping this wire for my life. And that's where I've just come from. You can see John back there along the wall making his way as well. I was just indicating to John which wire to hold. You can see some have green tape and some have orange tape. The orange tape are ones that you can hold on to, and they're pretty tight. And then the green ones are where you're supposed to clip in with your carabiners. Sometimes it's a little hard to tell where you're supposed to go, and you'd kind of have to ask the guide or whoever was above where to go next.
Keep going over here.
You got it, Don.
All right. Now what? Keep going?
Grab right here.
All right, hang on a sec. I gotta keep going. This is a kind of a foolia.
Yeah, see the step?
Yeah, I see it now.
Yep.
That's a kind of a foolia. It's like, oh, do I gotta climb up there?
Oh, no. You got it. Nope. There you go.
Ready?
Yep. There you go.
We continued along a fairly substantial cliff until we got to our next bridge.
Oh, there's another bridge, huh?
Yeah. This one is 3 wires.
Well, we'll see how much better that one is.
Yeah. Your feet will probably get better on it sideways.
Still pretty neat.
Yeah.
No transfers on this bridge, so it should be maybe a little easier. And there's 3 cables. All right.
Yeah, your feet will fit across.
This wire bridge was a lot longer than the first one we were on, but it did have 3 wires, so your feet felt a little bit more stable. And there also were no transition points. You clipped onto a guide wire that was up above us on the left. You can see it in the right-hand video there pretty well. So that made it a lot easier. You didn't have to step through those tight V's with the black ropes that we had on the first wire, and you were just able to walk right along. My camera on the right there was getting full of condensation, so aiming into the sun kind of makes the picture quality not great, so apologies for that. But you still can see John coming across. You can see how he's clipped into that guide wire on the upper side of his shoulder so that he's not having to do transitions, which really did make the bridge a lot easier. And it felt more stable than the first one we went across that was just that single wire. For as many times as we were just on wire bridges or on rebar steps or wooden steps on the side of the gorge, there were plenty of opportunities where we had a good rock ledge to stand on so you could kind of get your bearings again, get comfortable. You could lean back against the rock. It was a little break for everybody because this was pretty physical to do all of this stuff. Even though you're really not climbing, you are using upper body strength. You are trying to balance. So it was nice to have spots like this where it was a little bit of a break from what we were doing. From this point, we were making our way to the first of 2 wooden suspension bridges. So this was another bridge that once you clipped in, you could just walk across. It was pretty shaky, but I felt like I was in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Luckily, this bridge did not break off of one side and swing us down into the gorge wall on the other side. And there was a pretty good ledge to stand on once we got off, so I was able to turn around and we could watch John come across the bridge as well. John mentioned it earlier, you are kind of focused intensely on what you're doing because this is not just a normal activity that you would do every day, at least not for us. But the scenery was really beautiful and it was pretty incredible to be able to do this kind of adventure walk. It's unlike anything we've ever done before and it was really fun, and I can't imagine a better place with better scenery to do something like this. I keep saying different parts were the hardest, but I think this part was actually the hardest and the scariest. You can see the rocks are wet and we're on a pretty sheer wall. You can see we're going to have to go up this ladder, which was so slippery at the time. And then we're just getting onto those little wooden steps and rebar. And I was really actually a little afraid that I was going to slip because the rocks were wet. They were a little slimy, but I made it up the ladder. I had a nice handhold on this rebar and I was able to get over to the steps. And so for this part, your feet are on wooden steps and you have rebar handholds for your hands. And that was pretty easy to go across. I wasn't as nervous once I got off the rock and onto the steps. You can see John just standing there on the side of the gorge wall, just a wooden stair and some rebar to hold on to. Some of the transitions were tricky and it was hard to tell where to go. John is standing on those rebar footholds and holding on with his hands, and he's got to get all the way down to where the guide is standing, but being clipped in and having to navigate where to put your clips and where to put your feet, sometimes it was really hard to tell where to go and what to do. The guide was very good at helping out. And luckily, those carabiners were on ropes that were pretty stretchy because we were tall and sometimes we had them stretched to capacity. This was another tricky spot. I know I keep saying that, but it was true. You're walking with your feet on rebar footholds, and then there's nothing really to hold onto, so you just kind of have to lean over, put your hands on the side of the gorge. It was at an angle, which I know is hard to tell from this video, and just kind of slide your way across until you can get back to a spot where you can hold onto. Here comes John along behind me, just getting to that spot where he's going to have to lean and use his hands on the cliff. We made it to the last obstacle, which was another wood plank suspension bridge. And as you can see, we had to climb up the side of the gorge to get to the bridge and step from those rebar rungs over onto the bridge. And unfortunately, this is also where both of our cameras died. John had to use his phone to get me getting up onto the bridge. And then I have 1 second of him coming across. Actually a very long bridge, and when you see John from the opposite side of the gorge here, you can see just how far it is to get across. And just like that, the harness portion of the trail was done.
Well, we made it across all the bridges, barely, but it was fantastic. Now we're just doing a little last part of the river walk here. And
Getting out of the gorge.
What's this called, the elephant?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in here.
Yeah.
And we're still walking up. There's another bridge we have to cross. But, holy cow, what an exciting day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so there's his face. You can really see it on here. He's like sitting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so the gorilla, the sea turtle, and the elephant. As we were finishing up the trail, we did have to go across 2 more bridges, but these ones did not require helmets or harnesses to get across. All right, last bridge.
All right, last bridge. We did it.
And then I'm putting this down for the rest of it.
All right.
Everyone's calling this the giraffe. Head at the top, long neck down.
Huh?
We did it.
Oh yeah, we did it, finally.
We survived the Riverwalk Adventure Trail.
Well, it's the
we survived the Adventure
Trail. Riverwalk is a little different, but we
Right.
did take part of the Riverwalk at the very end, the last
Yes.
2 bridges that you just walk over.
Yes.
Still pretty high up over the gorge. You
Yeah.
cross the gorge twice on a a single plank board bridge, and it's still
Yeah.
pretty scary.
But the adventure trail was pretty intense.
Oh yeah, it sure is.
It
Wow.
was pretty intense.
So
they put the hardest bridge first.
yeah. So hopefully we got
The
some good
single
video of it.
wire.
Just walking on the ledges, you know, for me, I'm a pretty big guy. You can't see where your feet are going, so you're just kind of playing it by ear, holding on and moving along. And they got these little handholds and footsteps along the way built into the rock wall. And
You gotta
you're
unclip and clip yourself back in.
unclip and clip, and you're right on the edge. So yeah, you can easily slip and fall, but well worth it. You know, it gives you a little excitement. You know.
Yeah, I'm glad we did it. I was nervous on the first bridge just because it was the first one. Also, they didn't tell us what to do if you slipped off anything. Like, obviously you're in a harness, you're clipped on, but they didn't tell you what to do. So I felt like that's not something that we have to worry about because they didn't prepare us for how to deal with that.
Yeah, just take your time, move along.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Really, the only restrictions would be if you have any physical limitations, and there's a weight restriction. You got to be 250 or under. So they do a red light, green light scale. So they don't know how much you weigh, but it's just green light, you can go. Red light, you're out.
They know if you're over 250 or under 250. That's it. So everything here today at the Chasm, you know, everything was fantastic. Highly recommend it. You know, spend the day here. Get here early. We got here about noon, but there's a few more trails you can go on. I'd say get here as early as you can.
Yeah, opens at 9.
And closes at 4 o'clock, I think.
Including all the trails. So if you get here at 9, you might be able to do everything.
Yeah, or walk fast.
Yeah.
But you know, you walk fast, you don't enjoy everything as much because you're time crunched.
Yeah, we were lucky for our adventure trail. There were only 4 of us. Plus we had a guide and then a shadow guide who was kind of learning it. I think it would have taken a lot longer
With
if
a
we
lot
had
of people.
a huge group of people, especially if you have people who are pretty nervous and like going slow. So I think it still took us about an hour and a half.
Well, probably.
But yeah,
this adventure course. Yeah,
Two thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. You know, young or old, you'd probably be able to get through it a lot more younger. But you know, the older you are, the slower you are, and you know, you're not as balanced as much either.
Yeah.
So yeah, but definitely get out here, come to AuSable Chasm, and check out everything they have to offer. You know, they also have a gift shop and a restaurant right here on site.
Yes, which I would like to check out because I am hungry.
Yeah, we haven't eaten yet since breakfast. I've been here all day, basically.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow us on social media.
And we'll see you on the trails.